Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. You are always most welcome. Today, moving on from the news we had last week about a 32nd scale aircraft, which everybody's been talking about, which is the ex-Wing Wings Lancaster, of course, which Border Model have announced they're going to finally put into production, albeit in limited numbers. I should just add a quick footnote on that it's yeah, there's a lot of prices have been bandied around, but I've heard it from two very reliable sources at least that the UK retail price is going to be 1 penny below £700, which I've got to be honest, I think is, I wouldn't use the word obscene, but it's quite ridiculous, to be honest. No kit is worth that. You know, they are just thinking up a number. I mean, they've doubled the price of the Hong Kong model kit. You can get $350. They literally doubled it. It's not double the kit, you know, I don't think so. It is better, I think, in many ways, but we haven't actually seen the final, you know, incarnation of it yet. We don't know what the instructions are going to be like. I would be very reluctant to spend £700. It's one of those things that there's a lot of people saying, oh yeah, but it's the ultimate kit, but you don't know that yet. You don't know that yet. It's too soon to say. If it was Wing Nut Wings, I think it'd be a different matter. But anyway, today we're moving on. How about a 1/32nd scale kit that we can all afford? Pretty much all of us anyway. The Revell 32nd scale Focke Wulf FW190 F-8. So this is one of the mid-late war Focke Wulf 190s, and this is interesting because obviously Revell are not really known for their quality, and yet they've brought out a few good kits recently, haven't they? In the last couple of years we've had this one, we've had that Mustang they came out with, which for the money, you know, these are costing about, I don't know, £35–40 thereabouts. That's quite a lot of kit there for £40 or thereabouts, you know, in your own various territories. It's not an expensive kit. It's a lot of plastic in, you know, in a sensible price. So even though I'm sure it's not going to be that detailed, there's lots of upgrade parts you can get. We'll talk about them at the beginning right now. Edouard, who may not be my favourite manufacturer, but they do some great stuff with their brassing upgrade sets. They do the instrument panels, they do a cockpit set, they do a gun set for the whole of the guns and the gun cover, the ammo feed chutes and all that stuff. They do a complete engine, and this I've seen is absolutely fantastic. Really detailed engine with all the pipes and all the wires and all that stuff. So you can take this very cheap kit, add this Edouard stuff. Yeah, you're going to spend some money on it. You're probably going to spend another, I don't know, £90 or something like that. But you'd end up with something that would give you a sort of Tammy R-esque, maybe even Wing Nut Wings standard of kit. Maybe. but certainly a really impressive kit with a lot of upgrade. It would really stand great scrutiny afterwards. Anyway, let's get into the Revell kit and have a look what we got. So, it is kit number 04869. We've got a wingspan of 32.7 centimetres, 327 millimetres, and 282 millimetres on the length on the fuselage. On the back, we've got some nasty adverts for their other stuff. I was hoping, actually, I couldn't remember this. I thought on the back, like they do now, that perhaps they had some of those pictures of the finished kit, but they haven't in this case. Not to worry, let's have a look what we have. It's got a nasty end opening box, which very few people like. I know. There's a bit of blurb on the side, but it's not great. It's quite short and doesn't tell you a lot really. Let's see what we have. Get straight into it. Oops. Something else in there? Is that the decals? Decals? Or is it just the sheet with the blurb on it? It's the decals. Right, okay. Right, well, we'll put aside the fact we don't like the box, because I don't think I'm different to anybody in that respect. What have we got? Instructions. There's actually not that many sprues, to be honest. Such a big kit. Probably because it doesn't have all this mega details. But anyway, let's zoom you in. So, yes. Oh, it has got some sort of stand, it would appear. Hey, that's cool. That is cool. Now, that's great on a 32nd kit. We don't even get that on 72nd and 48 scale kits these days, so that's a bit of a step forward. So it starts off with a bit of a talk. The F-8, or Schlachter, after the Bf-109, the FW190 was the second standard fighter of the German Luftwaffe during World War II. Produced in large numbers from early 44 onwards. The F series were brought in 43 onwards, specifically for ground attack targets. So this is the ground attack variant for tank busting. It had large bomb electrics, and 5 external load points could be individually jettisoned as well. Well, that's interesting. Blisters on the upper fuselage wing to accommodate the cannons. Oh, sorry, I'm misreading that. So the bubble-shaped canopy. Blisters on the upper and lower wing surfaces were removed. I beg your pardon. I misread that. Okay, well, I won't carry on reading that because I'm not doing a very good job of it. So anyway, we've got the usual Revell instructions. It has to be said, where they just start off with some basic stuff, and then they give you the sprue tree. God, very well today. Sprue tree map, so to speak, and then you get the options. It explains there's an option of drop tanks or bombs on the wing. That looks really cool actually, and it warns you to open up some holes on the wing here if you're going to. In fact, it starts very oddly, doesn't it? It starts with the lower wing. That's the start of the instructions. It's very curious, a bit unusual. So it's talking about opening up the holes on the lower wing, also for your drop tanks. So you've got to make those decisions right at the beginning of the build. Then we've got our foot pedals for the rudders. You've got a stick on this one. Looks reasonably detailed actually, not too bad. You've got some belts which I think are decals. Look at it with the decals. Let's just have a look at them. I'm doing this in the wrong order. I normally start with the decals. That's a normal thing. Okay, yeah, I'm right. So, well, first thing that strikes me, there's no swastikas, which annoys me. We've been over this before. Most people that seem to comment about this agree with me. Why we can't have them in some form that can be made up, rather than just not included, that's not acceptable. Stupid. I know Revell, they are a German company, but I'm sure there are ways around this that wouldn't cause them problems. I still think it's ridiculous. Anyway, we'll move on. But here you can see those seat belts I just talked about. Here they are. I'd have preferred some photo etch, but anyway, we've got a kit here that's made to a price, so we can't be too harsh in that respect. Yeah, there's not many decals, it has to be said. Printed in Italy, so that's obviously cartograph, so they're going to be okay. Got your instruments here. That's more than we got in the Border 109, I have to say. There was no instruments like that. There was no decal, and there was no decal for the seat belts either, which was crazy, but anyway, there we go. They look nice. I like the shark mouth. You can't go wrong with a shark's mouth ever. They look absolutely fine, so we'll move on from those. So yeah, it's cockpit instruments are decals. So, going back to here, just back out again a bit more. There we go. So you're building up your cockpit instrumentation panel once you've put your seat in. You've got your gun sight here. Is it a Revell gun sight I think they use on the Focke Wulf? I think it is. And then you put that through into under the coving, and then you've got your armour plate here for behind the pilot's head, and then you start building up your wheels and tyres and your main gear. Is that the main gear or is that the tail wheel? Looks like the tail wheel to me. It's the tail wheel. This doesn't make it that clear. Not the clearest I've ever seen. And then we start to work on the cockpit, fuselage sides. So you're working on putting in that coving we just saw with the instruments, and then you're putting in that tail wheel into the tail assembly. Then you bring in the two sides of the fuselage together, and then you bring in the cockpit tub assembly like a unit underneath, and then you start working on the bulkhead where the guns are going to go, just ahead of the cockpit, and then you're onto the wing spar and the wings, lower wing in this case. You've got your bays for your main gear going in there. Yeah. And then you have got various parts that are making up the assembly that's going to support the engine above, on building it into the wing assembly underneath here, before you bring in your fuselage here onto the lower wing. Don't know what the fit's going to be like. Hope there's not going to be a gap there, but we shall see. Then we're on to the ailerons. And they're recommending here that you use pegs, which is a good thing to do in a kit like this, because of the price point of this, you'll get younger models having a go at this, so they need to know those things, which is good. I mean, the instructions are fairly clear, just the odd point like that tail wheel, which wasn't made terribly clear. Then you've got flaps coming in. Flaps down explains how to position them. And then we're getting into the tail planes. So the horizontal stabiliser and the elevators. Again, it's recommending a peg to hold them. And you've got your rudder coming in here. And you have got, I thought there were some pins, but there isn't. No, it's just plastic. Okay. Then you bring those together into the tail section here. Then you start building up your engine. Now it has got engine with detail, so being honest, if you are looking for the ultimate in scale detail, then you're going to go and get this Eduard brassing set that I mentioned. But I don't think this is too bad, you know. I mean, there's a lot of kits that are coming out that don't have that level of detail. I mean, you've got all your cylinders, you've got your, looks like the push rods, you've got your fuel injection system, there's wiring, there's the exhausts, it's all there, it's all there. I mean, the fine wiring is not there, I'm sure, obviously, but you can always add that, you know, manually. You don't need to go and buy all this extra stuff if you haven't got the budget for it or, you know, the inclination. But it does look a very impressive looking motor that's going in there, isn't it? It's Daimler-Benz on this, isn't it, I think? Is that right? Let's check that. Does it mention it? Engine. No, it's BMW 801 selling me. BMW engine. So, yeah, it's a very impressive looking bit of kit. Then you're moving on to your undercarriage and your sort of struts, your legs for your wheels and tyres. They're going to go in. Then you're going to put in the operating system for the retraction system. Putting that in, having put your covers over, the wheel covers, gear covers, and then you repeat the whole process. And you have a slightly different process if you're going to have it in the retracted mode, where I think it's just like a half, not an entire. It doesn't have the depth because it doesn't need it. You're not going to see it, so they do this half thing, and then you put them in flush. Then you've got to put your canopy in. You've got your cowl covers to go on. Nice if you can leave these open, I think, have a bit of a diorama going on. I'm sure that could be done. I mean, you wouldn't want to cover them over and glue them in, would you? Why would you bother having built that engine? That's crazy. This has got a lot of options in terms of, or possibilities in terms of, you know, displaying it open. I think it would look fantastic. Even here you can have the gun bay open, the cannons. That would look cool. Then you've got your little step ladder that pops out underneath, which is quite clever on this aircraft. And then you've got your very interesting sliding bubble canopy. And you've got it open or closed. You've actually got two variants there. I think there's two designs of canopy. One's more of a bubble than the other is. I like the one that's really sort of, not so much of a bubble, that's really slick back. It looks really cool. Then you're going to do the pylons for your weapons and your tanks. And then you're building the tanks and the bombs themselves, as you can see there. Building those up, putting the fins on, putting on the centre pylon for a tank or bomb. And then near the end you're getting onto your spinner and prop. And your cooling fans, because it has a cooling fan on the FW190 directly behind the spinner. And then you've got this rather interesting stand, so that you can mount it on a stand fuss, which I think will look really good actually. And there we have it, that's the construction done. So you've then got, what have we got, two different options? Yeah, two options of markings. Not very generous with the markings. It seems that the shark mouth is in fact not on the aircraft but on the bomb. How about that? That's unusual. Haven't seen that before. So they're putting shark's mouth and bothering to paint them on a bomb. Must have had nothing better to do. How odd. Can't say I've ever seen that before. I can't recall it. Something that's going to be dropped, you know, seems a bit wasteful really to spend time painting it up, never to be seen again. Anyway, we've got one that's in the Czech territory, this one, and that's with Jagersvader. What's it called? It doesn't say in fact. That's odd. STG. They're both in the Czech territory. So this is the sort of southeastern front where they're bombing the Russians on their advance. Anyway, that's the instructions. So, nothing terribly fancy with Revell instructions, of course. One thing that really gets my goat these days, and I know I always go on about it, but the more I look at these kits now, the more I get a little bit annoyed by the instructions. I mean, I'm going to let this one off. I'm not going to rant on this one. I'm going to talk generally now. But there's no detail about what colour the parts are supposed to be, the components in the cockpit walls, you know. No, doesn't tell you any of that stuff. Oh, it does actually. It does tell you on the cockpit walls. So that's on the side of the fuselage. But it doesn't seem to give you much guide. Some parts are... okay, in fairness, I might have been harsh in this case. So I'll take that back. But a lot of kits, like that Border Model 109, it didn't give any data about what colour you're supposed to paint any of the parts inside the aircraft at all. How bizarre. How is that a good instruction manual then? And the Border Model kit was beautiful moulding, absolutely superb. So I'm not knocking the kit, but they just don't seem to do a complete job of it. They think they can just show photo, you know, like artwork or photographic render of the instructions, and that's good enough. It's not instructing you, is it? It's not giving you the data you need to complete the kit. Anyway, in fairness, in this one I was being a bit harsh, that's fine. Let's have a look. Now, the owner of this, who isn't me, sadly, he has said that we should open the bags, which are taped. So that's good, maybe we don't have to cut them. We must open the bags and have a jolly good look at it all properly, so let's do that now. I think for, you know, not a lot of money, this is going to be okay. Fingers crossed. As long as it isn't covered in flash, which Revell are a bit prone to. Let's see what we've got here. Okie dokie, we've got one piece that's coming off the sprue there, which is one of the tail planes. Let's zoom you in for this. Here we go. Now then. I think we might need a bit more light as well on the subject. How's that? That better? Yes, I think so. Right. Can we see some more detail? Panel lines, etc. Yes, I think we can. It's quite faint, isn't it? It's not heavily engraved panel lines, but they're nice. They seem to be in the right places. Just come across as faint for 1/32, actually, I think. But they look nice, and they've got all the panels are there where they should be. You've got vents and access hatches, and the shaping and the moulding is really good. And there's no flash on that actually, which is great for Revell. On the other side, obviously you get the odd ejector pin here and there, but they're generally not in places they'll be seen, I don't think. Pretty sure that's the case. But looks decent, doesn't it? Looks decent. The only thing that Revell do always seem to have these days is that where they have the ejector pin, you'll notice these rather nasty marks which often appear on the inside of the kit. Their release agent is obviously some sort of a black gooey silicon type material, and it can be a little bit ugly. I would certainly recommend, if I was you, I think you want to perhaps wash your sprues with detergent before you start. Because who knows if it's, you know, contaminated the face of the actual part. It probably has. Well, that's very nice. Can't really fault it. Just a bit light on the panel lining, I think. But then you see, I've been spoiled, you might say. I've been looking at the Border Models kit, and that's quite the opposite, isn't it? It's very heavy panel lining at 1/35 as well. And I did feel that might have been a bit too heavy. This is the other way, it's a bit too on the light side. But anyway, let's look at this fuselage. Now we've got two here where we seem to have, okay, we've got some major panels going on here, so let's bring you in. We've got the exhaust flaps here. That's fairly nicely done, but it's not. A little bit of flash has interfered with that, I think. Is it supposed to be like that? No, I don't think it is. I'm just looking at the other one for a comparison. Can you see here? They're slightly blocked up by flash, which has crept in there. This is where Revell's moulding is a little bit, you know, lower, and this is why it's cheaper in fairness. A little bit lower standard than, you know, your Tamiyars or your Great Wall Hobbies or, you know, Border or whoever. It's all relative, isn't it? And you've got your top of the cowling where the cannons come out. So that's the front part of the cowling, isn't it? Just behind the front ring and spinner and prop. Then you've got your cowls, which you can perhaps have open here, but they're nicely detailed. Again, you can, again, a little bit on the light side though, I think, the engraving. Either that or I've just got used to the Border model style. But it does look a bit light to me. And I feel the same about the back as well. On those elevators, it's a bit light, that panel lining, isn't it? But it seems accurate enough, and the shape looks good. Here we are on the other sprue. This has got, now we've got the cowl as the cover for the actual cannons themselves, which hinges back. Again, a little bit of flash creeping in here and there, but not too bad on the parts themselves. Just a little bit of a hint of it here on these edges, a little bit. So you just want to get your sanding stick out and clean them up a bit, I think. Also got a bit of a sink mark there. I think that might be alright. Can you see that? Coming out on the camera or not? Yeah, there. See it? That crescent shape. Bit of sink mark. Can't feel it, in fairness, so I think you'll be okay. No, I think that might just be alright. Definitely get a primer down on that to help try and even it over a bit, fill it a bit. But it looks nice. Again, just light panel lining. I'm just a bit worried that when you've got, you know, a primer and one, possibly two coats of paint with a clear varnish on the top, clear coat I should say, that panel lining is going to be very faint, I think. So I wouldn't go heavy with your painting, that's all I would say. But overall, really not a bad looking sprue, that. I thought it was quite nice. All the formation looks superb. There's not too much flash, just here and there, a little hint of it. That's all. So, what's next? Bring you out so you can see what is going on. Next one, we have this rather interesting stand. And the wings, let's have a look at this one. It's nice that we don't have to cut the bags open, that we actually tape them up. I wish that more did that instead of stapling them all, you know. Either reseal them or do like this and put tape on, which is fine, you can just reseal it again. Now then, here we have the stand, which is humongous. Wow, it's got quite a high finish. It's probably going to play hell with the camera, watch this. Yeah, it's quite glossy looking, isn't it? Look at that. It's almost a mirror finish, I'd say that is. You can see the mould, sort of slight sink mark coming through, can't you? It's a bit of a shame. Anyway, I don't think, you know, just get that painted up. I don't think again, it probably won't have shown it's been painted, that. It might do there though, that's a proper sink mark just here at this end, can you see that? Yeah, there. That is actually a depression, slight depression. But nobody looks at the stand, do they really? You know, once it's got a bit of dust on it, you won't see it. But it's got this like a chimney almost, that is the part of the vertical part of the stand. And then you've got this rather nice, angleable stand that sort of meets the aircraft underneath. And these two prongs here go into the fuselage. And it means you can angle the aircraft. You can turn it back or forward, this piece, to angle it, whichever way you prefer. That's quite good. I'd like to see more of that. You know, Tamiyar do it with their 30-second kits, and I think that it's something we need to see a return of. Stands, you know, help you display the model so they don't just all look the same sitting on their wheels. It's very boring. Also, we've got another cowling cover here, which seems to have the exits for the guns on it, which is quite nice. And then, of course, there's this. There's a spar at the end as well. That's very good. Then we have got the wings, top wings this is. Again, very light panel lining, very, very subtle. Here's the ring for the sort of ring, the first ring that goes up against the fuselage, and this is the actual sort of tip ring, if you like. And in between these two effectively is where the fan spins, if you like, that cooling fan we talked about. It's raised panel lines, which is accurate of course for the actual elevators here. They feel fine, to be honest. They feel about right scale wise. Don't have any problem with that. Then you've got your rudder, which again actually it has raised panel lines on the real aircraft and the rudder. They feel right, they don't feel wrong, they don't feel out of scale, but I'm not sure about this very light panel lining that we seem to have. If you get it focused, seem to have this very light panel lining on the wings. Again, it's very subtle. It's going to look even more subtle when you painted it up, so a little bit concerned there. But quality wise, no sign of any nasty flash to cause any real stress. Although sometimes we say that in the review, and then when you get into the kit we find out it starts to make itself felt on the mating surfaces, which can be a little bit of an issue. And the other issue is that, and I should just add this, there's a couple of reviews that I've done for you, and I look at the review as you do on the screen, and I see all sorts of sins on these kits that I didn't notice with my own eyes. And this is because the camera lens on the Canon camera I'm using is very, very good. It really is sharp, and it sees everything when it's on zoom, and my eyes don't zoom. So if you ever notice that and say, well, there's no flash, but I can see some, it's very hard to see that unless you've got the big modelling glasses on, you know, and if I put them on I'll just look like a mad scientist, so we won't bother with that right now. Let's have a look at this one. Big sprue here, look at this one. Big old sprue. I'm glad of this tape, this is a real godsend. We can really pack it back as it was before, you know. Just be careful. Oops, now the tape's grabbed onto all the parts. Okay, now this is the engine. Now look at this, see what I was saying about the detail being good. This is really impressive actually. So we start off with the cockpit tub here, and you've got a fair old amount of detail there. I mean, what you could do with this, you could just get one of these Edouard Zoom kits or Yahoo kits, and you could detail that up really, really nicely. Look at the engine. Look at these cylinders. That's amazing. That's really nice. Don't forget, this is I think it's under £40 in the UK. This kit. You're getting a lot of detail there, and I'm delighted to say that there's not really an excess flash. When I had the Revell F15E Strike Eagle, it was absolutely covered in flash, the one I had. It was really awful, and all the small parts were just bedecked with flash. And I spent most of the build time just cleaning flash up, and some of the parts weren't figured very well and flashy, which is the worst combination. But look at these. These look superb. That's really nice for a kit at this price. You know, there's the here's the fan, the cooling fan I spoke of. That's nice as well, isn't it? And then you've got your spinner. Oops, sorry. Spinner here. That's nice. Got to say, these components, I think this is the fuel injection system, or is it the cooling system? Not that familiar with the BMW engine, I'm a bit ignorant here, but you've got some major piping that goes into the cylinders here. I think it's fuel injection. Just a lot of really crisp detail. I mean, it reminds me of that ME262. That was very similar to this. It had really fine detail, a similar price point, and again one of the new generation of Revell kits. There's some really good fine detail. I mean, look at the instrument panel here. It's quite small, isn't it, relatively, but you know, there's a lot of fine parts. Don't need a lot of cleanup on them. You've got your, well, so big you can't get it in the prop. Look at the prop, that looks nice. And they've put the attachment points in a sensible place. That's really nice. Yeah, I like that sprue. And then you've got your These are wheel wells here. Plenty of detail on the inside of them, look. This is impressing me. This is really impressing me. Look at that. That's nice. And then you've got the backs of the cylinders here. That is a lovely sprue. It really is. Yeah. Yeah, what's not to like there? That's fantastic. Okay, let's sneak that away. He says, hopefully. You know what'll happen now, it'll refuse to go back in the bag. I'll be fighting it for 5 minutes. So you don't want to see. Will it go back in? Come on, you can do it. There they are. Oh. There we go. Nice and easy in the end, didn't it? A bit of persuasion. Okay, now then, what's next? Smaller sprue here. Very odd the way they put the tape at a strange sort of 45-degree angle. I'm not sure that's all there. In this case, I think they've got more than one tape. Yeah, 2 tapes. Okay. Gently. That's it. Gently does it. Oh, they're very generous on the tape on this sprue. I don't know why they put so many tapes on that one and the other one only had 1, but anyway. Come on, chicken. Right, now then. Tyres. Now we've got 2 options on tyres. This looks really good. We've got a treaded and a non-treaded tyre. Treaded here and here, non-treaded here. Now is that because one is simply for the retracted version? I think, in fact, there are actually 2. Right, the sprues we're looking at in this bag are replicated 100%. So there's 2 lots of everything that you're seeing here. There's another replication of it. So yeah, one is for the retracted version, I think, and one is for the down version. But there still is the option of treaded or untreaded. And then you've got your tail wheel. You've got your wheels there. Plenty of detail on the wheel. Looks nice. And then you've got your little bomb. What do you call them? Brain's gone neutral. There's a name for these that attaches to the bomb. Magnetic attachment points. Sway braces, I think is the correct term, isn't it? Sway braces. Stops the bomb from waggling about on its pylon. Those look really, really nice, I've got to say. Then, so we've got 2 of those, and then we've got also 2 of this sprue that you're about to see, which is the tanks. Big centerline tank. That's a beauty. Look at the detail there. That's really nice. Yeah. That's cool. And you've got a couple of small bombs that go on the wing. In halves, obviously. And then you've got your main pylons, which are featured here. And more sway braces. Yeah. Lots of little parts and details. Very nice sprue, that. I've got to say, that's one of the nicest Revell sprues I've ever seen. It's completely flash free on any of the parts, as far as I can tell. You're going to tell me differently with your zoom eyes over there. On that other one, I forgot to turn it round. There's actually a bit more detail on the wheel on the other side here, which is nice. It's very cool. So that's a cracker. Very nice moulding. That just reminds me again of that Messerschmitt 262. Very similar quality. So that one goes that way. That one goes across round the corner. So, how does that go? Done some very strange things with this tape, if you ask me. Anyway, there we are. Right, so moving back so you can see what's happening. Here we have some more. And this time we've got it's a duplication. this is the last of the grey sprues. I say grey, it's a kind of strange colour that they're using in Revell now, isn't it? It's kind of I don't know, it's like it's not quite grey, is it? It's kind of pucey grey, I don't know what you call that colour. It's got a slight sort of sandstone-ish look about it. So, we've got the gear covers here. They look good. And then we've got the tail wheel, which looks really detailed. Look at that. Very nice. Then we've got the alternative covers if the one's retracted, or non-retracted. Is it the way around? That I think is the actual. Yeah, that's the retracted one piece. Then we have got some of the location points for the gear leg here into the inside the well. That's the side you'll see with all the bolt heads on it. And then we've got our tail wheel gear here, and the tail wheel. So there's two tail wheels. Obviously, there's other variants at work here because we've got 1, 2, 3. I'm seeing various versions of the tail wheel. No, it's just retracted or non-retracted. I'm forgetting. On the 190, the later models, it has a retracting tail wheel. So basically, we've got this is the one that's retracted, and this is when it's out. So you see a bit more of it. Then we have got another option on the drop tank, centerline drop tank. In fact, I say that centerline. You have the option, of course, of having them out on the wing. So that I think there's 3 in total options, 2 different types, and 3. You can have up to 3, I think, of the same drop tank. And then we've got the main legs here, which are really nice. Those are very nicely moulded. And it's nicely moulded actually. It's nothing like the F15E, which is from an early 90s kit, which had a few issues, nothing too bad, but it's not as wonderful as people would have you believe. Having built it, I can speak from experience, and flash was its #1 problem, and then fit of things like intakes and the top and bottom, where they went together, they were nasty. But we digress. So here we've got some more pylons here, and then these smaller fuel tanks beneath. That is pretty impressive. Being really honest about it, that's a nice kit. Let's have a look at the clear parts though, because that could be critical for us. See what we think. Here we go. Just one piece of tape this time, strangely. So I mentioned there were 2 different variants of canopy. One's a bit more bubbled out, one's a bit more sort of slender, streamlined. This is the very streamlined one, first of all. Here we go. And there are 2 versions of it. I think this is a generic sprue that's used for either the F or the G version of the kit. I think that's why there's 2 very similar looking versions, it has to be said. Although they are different in profile, I have to say. It's not quite the same. Subtle difference there, very subtle. And the other one, that's very clear by the way, clarity is really, we should look at that, shouldn't we? Clarity is fantastic, it's really nice. A little bit of distortion here, where there's an attachment point where it goes on the frame. That's distorted the image slightly. On the other one, this is the one that's a bit more bubble-like, a bit more of a hump to it. And again, good clarity, you know, quite a nice bit of clear work that. It's not very thick, it's quite scale-like actually, quite thin looking, quite like that. So often you get these parts and they can be a little bit out of scale, and then you got your windscreen, it's got a little bit of flash in it, but it's not going to be a problem because of where it is. Just trim that straight off, gently. There's a bit of distortion on the windscreen there, if I'm honest, in the middle. I don't know if you can see it there. that's not ideal. And then a couple of lights really. So it's very interesting, isn't it? I like this idea of having these optional canopy bubbles, blisters, you know what I call them. But overall, that's I think that's better than you might reasonably expect for the price. You know, everything is relative. You know, we're talking about former Wingnut Wings Lancasters, and they say they're going to charge us £700 for it. It needs to be total perfection, because if it's not, it'll be a joke at that price. I'm sorry, and I know where. I know. I've got a hunch, let's put it that way, where it's going to be let down. It's going to be on the instructions and the supplementary data. At £700, it needs to be the best. You know, they're saying, oh, it'll be the best kit ever. Well, it needs to look like the best kit ever. And I said about that, as far as I'm concerned, simply buying the best kit ever's moulds, but having to do all the decals and the instructions under another company that's quite a newcomer of a company, doesn't mean it's going to be what it should have been, which was the Wingnut Wings product. Anyway, digressing. Let's not get into that. I'm just saying, buying the moulds from Wingnut Wings does not mean you have a Wingnut Wings kit. We saw that with the Meng Focke triplane. That's exactly what Meng did, and it didn't really work out quite as we expected. Well, what do we think of this? Focke Wulf FW190 F-8, the dive bomber version, anti-tank missions on the Eastern Front from Revell. I have got to say that for what this costs, which is not a lot of money, I think that's a superb kit for the money. At £40 or less, I think you can get it for 35 in some places. It's amazing. I mean, the detail in the engine, I had it in my mind because I know that most people seem to rush out. Phil Flory built this actually on Flory's website. He did a beautiful job of it as well. I think he bought just about everything. He had the guns, the cockpit. I think he had the undercarriage upgrade sets and everything. He really he made it like a super kit, I think he called it, and he looked fantastic. So if you want to do that, you can go right to the extreme. It's absolutely fine. It'll look fantastic. But even just what's in that box, the parts are nice. You know, they look well moulded. I've got some reservations about the overall panel lining. I think it's very faint looking to me. But apart from that, I don't think I can really fault it. For the money, you know, I mean, the instructions are competent. They tell you what colour the parts are supposed to be inside, the engine parts and the cockpit, which is more than you get from Border and many other Chinese manufacturers. Hong Kong model, are you listening? And we won't even get into what's the guys that did the Tomcat. My brain's gone again. They did the Tomcat taking off, and is it AF? I've forgotten the name. You know what I mean. But their instructions are just ridiculous, completely unfathomable nonsense. But anyway, that kit is superb for the money. I think, you know, you get what you pay for, yes, but actually you're getting a bit more than what you're paying for here. I think that looks to me like a £55 kit, £60 kit, and it's not that much money. It's not that much. That's really superb. I'm going to give this, and I'm qualifying this, I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. I was going to say 9.5. That's probably a bit OTT. 9 out of 10. But have I given another Revell kit 9 out of 10? Yeah, I think I gave the ME262. Okay, so it's a similar situation to that. Very, very well earned in my view. I think that is a really nice FW190. And if you haven't got buckets of money to spend, and you can't afford a Lancaster at £700, get yourself something like that. You can have a lot of fun with it. You can just do your own wiring, you can add it, you know, you can do it very basic if you want to. The choice is yours, but it's such good value. Brilliant. 9 out of 10, no question. Hope you'll give me a 9 out of 10 or thereabouts with a thumbs up. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. If you are a subscriber, and we've had a big uplift in subscribers recently actually, don't forget to ding the notification bell, because if you do that you get early warning of the upcoming vids that are going to be with you soon. Anyway, on that note, I will leave it for now. Just say to you, thanks for joining me. I hope you found it interesting. Better kit than I was expecting. I've got to say, it was a real find. So thanks to the owner. I'll make sure I put it all back for him nicely, and until next time, thank you for watching, take care of yourselves, and bye for now.